Eran Nachshon, welcome to the conversation today. It's
Hey
a
John,
pleasure to be
thanks.
with you.
Great of you to have me. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. You're joining us from Israel. I'm south of Salt Lake City in Utah. Today, we're going to be talking about leading through integration, really how to go about unifying global teams without slowing down. That's a big topic. We're going to try to unpack that, really explore what that means, um, what we mean by integration, and then this whole distributed teams, global reach. When we have global teams, how do we, within that complexity, how do we build and grow without that complexity inherently just slowing us down? How do we continue at the speed of business and responding to the market? As we get started, I wanted to share Eran's bio with everybody. Eran Nachshon is the Chief Operating Officer at Rapyd, the global leading financial technology company. He is currently leading the operational transformation of the company following the acquisition of PayU Global Payments Organization. This move has fortified Rapyd's global network, specifically cementing its footprint across Latin America and Africa while connecting these high growth markets to the rest of the world. This is not a standard expansion story. Eran is managing a complex integration where established regional powerhouses must merge into a single global infrastructure. He will be discussing with us the specific leadership mechanics required to break down silos, maintain speed during complex changes, and how to build a unified one Rapyd culture that bridges diverse high growth markets. So I'm super thrilled, Eran, to have this conversation with you. Anything that you would like to highlight about your own background before we dive on it?
Yeah, thanks, John. I think it's actually pertinent, so I'll go through it in like 45 seconds. I
Sure.
started my life and my career in the military, but so
Hmm.
a very hierarchical organization. But I started as a developer and as a team lead of developers and as a product person. So right off the bat, I kind of had a foot in both worlds, if you will, like a very old kind of hierarchical structure, but also a very cutting edge high tech environment. I spent a little bit of time in consulting, so I got to see a lot of different cultures, a lot of different organizations. And then I moved halfway across the world to get my MBA in NYU, focusing on finance. And then I joined Barclays. And very apropos, this is the first time I was part of a merger because as I joined, literally that week was when Barclays actually acquired Lehman Brothers. So up to now, I have 5 mergers and acquisition experiences under my belt, and each and every one of them was dramatically different. And I'm looking forward to kind of sharing that experience with you and your listeners. So again, thanks for having me.
Yeah, yeah. Thank you for that background. And yeah, there's totally different types of organizations, different types of approaches, right? When you're in like the military versus, in an acquisition within the financial services industry or whatever, and you've been in that acquisition space multiple times, super fascinating. Yeah, so I can't wait to pick your brain more as we explore this. Maybe to start things off, maybe you can lay out for us your kind of framing, your experience around managing transformation versus expansion. Um, you know, Oftentimes we might kind of interchange those terms. Both of them might often be used kind of as buzz terms within business. So yeah, like within the current context of Rapyd, how are you um, looking at this integration piece, within perhaps the context of transformation or perhaps separated from transformation?
No, I think it's a great question. I think the natural kind of go-to place to most people when they think about a merger or an acquisition is, okay, let's expand. Instead of growing the organization organically, let's buy another company and you check the box. So Rapyd has gone through a very interesting journey, and we've gone through the hyper growth stage. So we know how to add a lot of people. And for us, especially the recent acquisition is not about just sheer expansion. There is definitely an element of getting licenses and footprint and regulatory, which is a very big hurdle for payments companies. So I'm not going to say that it is none of that. That would be nonsensical. The transformation bit, though, comes in from taking different cultures and different skill sets in different markets and then basically transforming them into something that hopefully, and again, I'm going to try to stay away as much as I can from buzzwords, but does create a synergy that you could not have achieved otherwise. And just one sentence more about this. If we went and organically gone to Latin America, which we had a presence in, and tried to expand, then it would not have been as impactful as joining hands with PayU and kind of getting the best of both worlds. And I think that's where the transformation bit really kicks in.
Yeah, excellent. Thank you. And I do think it's important. I mean, obviously, in some cases, in some sense, it's just semantics. Like, I guess it means whatever it means for whatever context we happen to be in. We have to own the terms. We have to own the meaning we assign to the terms. But I do think it's really important, to think about it in terms of any time there's an acquisition. Of course, expansion is happening, and of course, transformation needs to occur if, as I mentioned kind of in the introduction, with Rapyd, what you're trying to do is you're trying to create one unified culture, right? You're trying to take two separate entities, you're trying to now bring them together, and you're trying to create one combined organization, one culture. That's really, really hard to do.
Yes.
Anyone who's been through that process, and now you've been through it many times, but like anyone who's been through that process knows the heartburn involved, like the pain that often is involved, and oftentimes it's not handled well, frankly. And oftentimes there really is a lot of pain. There's a lot of carnage, frankly, and a lot of people just don't make it through the gauntlet of an acquisition, for a variety of reasons. Talk through that with us about like how you're trying to orchestrate, this expansion and transformation to bring together, these two separate organizations into this one global unified team.
Yeah, I'm happy to do that. There's quite a lot to unpack, so I'll try to
Hmm.
kind of
Hmm.
keep it in pieces and then kind of have you kind of
Yeah.
follow up on where you think is most interesting. I think there's some basics that hold true, and I think there's some things that you need to be careful of. And there's something that sounds kind of counterintuitive. If you come with a playbook, that's good. If you stick to your playbook no matter what, that's disastrous. Like you shouldn't come in thinking I'll figure out, I'll wing it. But if you say I've done 4 acquisitions, I'm doing another one, I know what to do, step aside, you're wholeheartedly and completely missing the point, and you will miss a lot of good opportunities to really create something that's more than the sum of its parts. Um, for us, the beginning was to listen. So even after acquisition that took us a long time to complete, again, for regulatory reasons, we did not come in guns blazing, sledgehammer at hand. And just to give context, one of our core beliefs is to build bold, to move fast. We are a high-tech startup company. We like to run. And in this case, we've actually taken a long time to do the post-acquisition due diligence, which is really one of the first points. You think about an acquisition, you think, okay, you guys have done a full due diligence, right? You know everything. And it's almost patently never correct. Nothing to say about bad intentions or poor work done by no means,
Right.
but
Yeah.
there's a big difference between seeing something on the shelf and then actually getting engaged and understanding and working with the people. And the thing you need to do at first is genuinely to listen, even if you're the subject matter expert, because there's a lot they bring to the table. And one of the things that you hear is the music. You hear how they work. You hear how they respond to things. And then there's a lot of technical stuff if it's incentive plans and retention and all of that. But through this process, they get to understand a little bit who you are, and you get to understand who they are. And for me, I think one of the most critical items, and again, these are allegedly self-evident and obvious, is the time you invest into it. Like we went on multiple visits. In the last 3 months, we had 6 of our senior people go there every couple of weeks. And it's beyond showing presence, it's showing care, it's showing priorities. And I'll pause after this to kind of give you a chance to kind of
Yeah.
deep dive where you want to. When I got there as the head of HR and as the chief operating officer, I have a little bit of a contrarian view. We'll talk about it a little bit later. I didn't do a town hall. I did not
Mm.
get on a stage and have like an automatic translation to Spanish because I don't speak Spanish, which is very unfortunate. What I did was a different approach. I opened my calendar for 6 hours every day, and I basically encouraged anybody who wants to sit down and talk to me for 10, 15 minutes. And John, I had 35 one-on-ones. And in those 35 one-on-ones, there was a chance for me to communicate and to connect to people, to hear what they're concerned about, and to kind of give them the level of truth, the communication that they're so thirsty, which you can't really get from a town hall because you feel like a town hall is a lot more about the person speaking than the people
Right.
listening.
Yep.
And
Yep.
here, that connection, I think, made a world difference. I'll pause here.
Yeah. Well, first, let me start there because I completely agree. I mean, a town hall can be great, but a town hall in and of itself, which is often where it ends. Like, let's be honest, like oftentimes they'll come and they'll do a town hall and then they say, okay, we're done. We've communicated
Check.
and check. Exactly. Right. And so if that's what you do, it's almost demeaning. Like it's almost like it's really almost infuriating to a lot of people when that's all you do because it really it seems like a check mark. It seems like uh superficial, right? And so,
Like
like
talking
what
down
you
to
did,
people.
yeah, yeah, exactly. So what you did is like, there's nothing wrong with doing town halls, but what you need to do if you do a town hall is to follow it up with basically what you did, right? Is do like the actual deep work, like the more
Yes,
intentional, um, like face-to-face work, right? You have to do the one-on-ones, you have to do the visits, you have to do like the real intentional person-to-person work, right? And so that's what you did, and that's why it was so meaningful because you're right, it's not about you, it's about them. And so often executives, for whatever their intention may be, and their intentions may be perfectly good, but they don't necessarily understand how it's perceived, what they're doing, right? And so it's not about you, it's about them. And you need to hear them and you need to listen to them. And you need to understand how they're dealing with things. And then you can hear all sorts of really good feedback. And a town hall is unidirectional. Like you're talking at them, you're not hearing anything
exactly.
back, right? And so you need to be able to get the information and the feedback and understand like how it's impacting them, especially like when there's an acquisition and now you're you're absorbing like this new area and there's like new local people in a totally different location, like maybe a different culture, different language, like different socioeconomic and geopolitical like dynamic,
Exactly.
right? Like you need to be able to recognize and honor local expertise and like all of that, right? And you can't do that if you just swoop in, do a quick town hall and check, think you're good. But that's
Yeah,
so often what happens.
no, I completely agree. And I have to say that sometimes it's okay to employ these little tricks. I mean, everything's above board, but Colombia is a very early morning culture, which I
Uh,
was not aware of. So I found myself, John, second day in, jet lagged, like, you know what, in Bogota, 20 something, like 2000 something meters above the ground,
mhm.
going to a CrossFit class at 6 a.m.
Hmm.
with one of the key leaders there. And the bonding and the connection, and I also like working out. I was completely gassed out because that was just not great
Yeah,
for me.
yeah.
But it's one of those things that kind of builds a bond in a sense that I'm more than just coming in to check a box. I'm here because I'm senior in a natural habitat. And this is a very big thing for that person. And so those little stories, they kind of reverberate. And if you do the extra work of finding out a little bit about these people, and you come in and you're saying to someone, "Well, I understand your family it just moved from Cartagena into here. How was that transition? I've been to Cartagena. It's a great." It's not just about making friends. It's not about just being empathetic, which, by the way, was a great episode. It's about creating that connection and making sure people understand that this is more than just checking boxes, which we keep going back into. It's really understanding where they're coming from. And then the conversation naturally evolves into what are your strengths? And for instance, that person came from finance and moved into financial operations, and she brought like a wealth of knowledge with her. And tapping into it and in kind of empowering her. And this connects to something that we'll talk about later. This was a natural progression And one of the things that's most important in my book to succeed is you can talk all the talk you want. You got to walk the walk. And by
Yeah.
that, I mean, John, we've made her a senior leader in our existing organization. And even though the acquisition is from one side to the other, she's managing people at the mothership. And when I came there and I did a little speech with some folks, one of the things that you could just see their eyes lit up was when I said, guys, I want to take a step back and say something real quick. We have two business units. Both of them are managed by people who are a part of an M&A. So those two CEOs are now running these acquisitions. The most senior person in my team are a result of an acquisition. This is not a hypothetical situation. They've been with us for over 5 years. They're thriving. They're doing more than they've done in their previous lives. This exists. And then when we did this with one person there, you could see that people are like, okay, this is real. And I think that is critical.
Yeah. Yes. Good. I love that. I love that. I love the intentional, meaningful connection that you're doing, even though you're not necessarily a morning person, 6 a.m. I feel for you because I wouldn't like that either. But you're sacrificing and you're actually going to make meaningful connection. And that's what matters. And people know the difference, right? They can see the difference a mile away between someone who actually wants to have that genuine connection, who really values them as a person, um, versus those who don't. It's just so clearly obvious to people when that's not the case. So how have you so you've also talked about this local expertise piece and really building up
Yep.
those who are part of the acquired and that is so critical too. I mean, I'm sure you have so many stories. I have so many stories of how that when that doesn't happen, and usually it leads to all sorts of problems and epic failures when you don't utilize the local expertise and you're not leveraging the leadership on the ground in the locations where you're operating, and it seems like a no-brainer, like it just seems obvious, but it often just doesn't happen for a variety of reasons, and so yeah, you just provide great examples of how you can definitely empower those individuals, and it's better for everyone. It's better for them. It's better for those, the acquired organizations. Now you have models of other employees get to look at them and see the
Yes.
opportunity, and everyone feels integrated and involved, and it's just better for everybody, right? One of the biggest challenges, I think, anytime you're involved in an acquisition, anytime you're talking about this kind of integration piece, and going through this transformational process around, unifying cultures and whatnot, anytime you're dealing with more complex organizational systems, right, is just trying to maintain the speed of business.
Yes.
How do you move forward without like slowing down when you're trying to now integrate and you're trying to essentially onboard all these new people into this new system, into this new culture? How have you approached that?
That's a really good question because, again, I don't think there's a classic answer. And this is where I
Sure,
said
sure.
I'm a little bit of a contrarian. I think you got to go into it as an adult and understand that some things are not going to go your way.
Yeah.
I've heard other people talk about, I don't want to lose a single soul. I don't want to miss one person. I don't want to upset one client. And it's definitely a way to go. I'm not saying I definitely don't have the playbook. We all know the statistics, somewhere between 50 to 70, some say higher, of M&A percentage fail. And a lot of times it is due to one or two extremes, either my way or the highway right off the bat. I don't care. I don't listen. It doesn't matter at all. And the other one is whatever you are, delicate flower, you're going to stay as is. And I'm just here next to you. And again, I'm not judging. I'm not the world leading expert. I think striking the balance obviously makes the most sense. But you have to own the fact that in some cases you will slow down. And one of the talks I said in those 35 meetings is I said to people, in some cases you are going to go backwards. you have automation right now. You're going to move
Mm.
to manual, but I need you to hear me and I need you to see what I'm saying and what we've done. We are a technology company. We believe in automation. We believe in AI. This is how we live. We have had 2 years ago 0% automation in one field that was critical for the conversation. I just don't want to get into too much jargon because it's boring. And now we're at 93%. I know that you're at 98%. I'm going to take you down, but trust me that my trajectory forward is much faster.
Mm.
And one of the things that we are willing to say and do is to say there is a probability. It's not our aim, it's not our goal, but there's a probability that we will lose some clients because we are trying to go much, much faster. Instead of doing X plus Y, I'm trying to get to X plus. But our core belief is once we do that, we'll be able to offer clients a much more robust offering. And,
Yeah.
I don't believe in treating adults as children and telling them nothing is going to change. You
Yeah.
absolutely will change things. You just need to be aware of what you're changing. You need to be aware of the risks that you're taking. And for me, John, the critical part, and I know it sounds very trite, it's to get their buy-in. And this person who's built that system with her own 10 fingers said, I understand her image was interesting. I understand I'm going to go 8 floors below of where I am now, but I understand how this elevator that you're building is going to shoot me up. And once you have that, it's okay if you slow down for a little bit because the future is so much brighter. And that's one of the things that we're kind of willing to do in our build bold kind of view to say we're willing to take some risks, not outside risk, reasonable risks. Because if we just try to hold everything, you're going to lose. There's no question about it.
Yeah. Yeah. Just being open and honest, right? Having communication about it. So the buy-in piece, I mean, let's be honest, not everyone's always going to buy in, right?
For sure.
And sometimes there's a misalignment, and sometimes that means people are going to choose to leave
Sure.
or going to be asked to leave. But like, I really like how you said you're going to just treat people like adults. I often tell people, I just wish it's unfortunately, I tell my kids, like, it's far too common that, like, in business, like, or, as adults, it's far too common that we function as though we're in high school or junior high. Like, we don't act mature. Like, we don't act like we're adults. You would think we would, but we don't. And so, like, let's just actually be adults and let's just treat each other like we're adults. And that doesn't mean we're always going to agree. And I love the idea of buy-in, but it doesn't necessarily mean you're always going to buy into what I think or what we're doing or what
Sure.
the vision is. But at least we can be adults and at least we can respect each other and at least I can be open and communicate with you. And then we can either choose to work together or we can be informed and then not, right? But at least we can be respectful. You're right.
100%. And one of the things, let's just give one tiny example. There's always this fear of change and buy-ins and people leaving, and that's fine. It's going to happen. No one retains 100%. That unless you just bought your sister spitting image company, which sounds weird. But we spoke to some people and we asked them a very simple question of like, what is it that you want to do that you couldn't do because of the previous owner? And this is not a made-up example, I swear. One of the things we came up with was on the finance department, and they basically said there's a limitation that was put on us that was completely, I don't want to say arbitrary. It kind of fit the general mold of the much, much bigger company that owned them before, but it doesn't make sense to us. And they walked us through it. And I remember my CEO, Ariel Stillman, said, let's do it. And they did it the following day. And John, the thing that's amazing is not the savings and it's not that. It's the light in those people's eyes when they saw there was no like 15 board approval. It was just do it tomorrow. We're going to track it for a few weeks. If it works, great. If it doesn't, we'll
Yeah.
fix back. And
Yeah.
so people have great ideas. They've been working there for ages. Not everybody's fossilized and like, whatever happened yesterday, that's what's going to happen. Some people have this like passion, and if you tap into it, then really great things happen. And that's exactly what you said. It's kind of working with people as adults and telling them if you could run the world, if you were the CEO of your function, what is it that you would do today? Some ideas we can't implement, and that's okay. But some of them were like, that is brilliant. And that kind of dovetails into what I said about the transformation. Because expansion is, I don't care, you'll do what I said. And here it's like, wait a second. you could do this here? Like in this country, yes, we could do it. In that country, we can't. We're like, then let's do it. I didn't know that. I wasn't an expert in each and every one of the 6 countries in Latin America. So it's about that. It's this is what you get for listening. Genuinely, this is your payoff just for listening.
Yeah, awesome. Oh, I love it. I love it. This has been such a fun conversation. I think we could go on and on, but I do know at the time I probably need to let you go and get on with your evening. Before we wrap things up for today, I just wanted to give you a chance to share with the audience how they can connect with you, find out more about your work, your team, and then give us a final word for today.
I'm not hugely active on social media. I kind of put my head down and do work, but I'm definitely on LinkedIn. Drop me a DM, or if anything you want to follow up, I'm always happy to kind of reach out and help folks. I think final word for me is that we all have to understand this requires a certain amount of courage. It's stepping outside of comfort zone for both sides. And I think there is a leap of faith that has to be done. And if you do it, sometimes, to be very honest, you're going to fall flat on your face. You have to have the grit to get up and try to leap again, because it's no one's fault that someone else didn't meet you halfway. But if you try again, people will buy into that faith. And so I would say listen and have faith.
Love it. I love it. Thank you so much. It's been just a pleasure. I encourage the audience to reach out, get connected, find out more about what Eran and his team, their Rapyd can do for you. And as always, I hope everyone can stay healthy and safe, that you can find meaning and purpose at work each and every day. And I hope you all have a great week.